I'm holding the phone with both my hands. Give me a moment. Alrighty. Action. Take two. I continuing the series. Sorry about that. I shaky hand, holding it with two fingers, and my thumb is just like twitching. Apologies. Continuing on with the Fandom series, I'm realizing I'm talking about a tragedy. As I'm looking at it now, and I'm talking about the show RWBY today. And the people that know, and the people that don't know, I feel you're lucky. Because the Star Wars, it was able to hold a name for years and years, and it lasted longer than probably most people thought it could ever. And then it kind of died down after Disney took it. But RWBY it felt like Icarus, now thinking about it. That's such a good term. It started off as a little project, people that had a passion, a love even, of this thing and wanted to tell a story. Particularly one dude that was good at 3D animation fight scenes. Like, bread and butter. I remember his first name, but I remember how the words of his last name, but not his actual last name, so I feel like every time I gotta pronounce it wrong. I think it's Mati Unum. Again, I may be saying it wrong, and I apologize if I am, but it should have been great, and it, like I said, like an Icarus, it flopped. So I'll talk about how when I jumped into it. It's good to be back. I found the show when season 1 and the trailers were out. I thought maybe I found it when season 2 came out, but now I'm getting memories as I'm talking about it that wasn't the case. Brady. It very much was a case of I remember watching the trailer and the first episode just being so excited because I found one episode in season 1 and from there on out I was like, actually I should watch all of it. I shouldn't just start randomly because YouTube recommended me something in the algorithm. I went to trailer 1 and then I was enamored because it's so beautiful. Especially now knowing also that it was such a small group. But I watched it and was just enamored. It felt like watching. It gave me the feeling, because I was a teenager, the feeling of watching something on the big screen, but it was on YouTube. And of course, that wasn't necessarily the goal of YouTube, but it felt like what YouTube was about was just any individual could make something and it could be seen by the world and get attention and love. Oh, you could tell I have a lot of passion as I'm trying to talk about it. Um, so I watched the first season, and I very much had rose-tinted glasses as I was watching it. Fell in love. There was some stuff, like some jokes though, and like the beats in between fight scenes that pulled me out. I was like, that is very weird, and it feels very much like looking back on it, it's very much a case of, oh, they should have had like an editor or someone coming in and being like, that's not a good joke. It was very much felt like an indie series, and I guess in a sense that's the beauty of it, but also at the same time it pulled me out as a girl, I guess is the best way to put it. Then I have songs underlined, but I'm gonna get back to that. Season 2 trailers came out, was pumped, eagerly, like, had it in the back of my mind as I was still in school. It was like, I need to go back home and watch a show. I need to go back home and watch a show. And this is around the time that my friends also started finding out about the series, and I basically got to nerd talk the entire time. And so we all were now kind of collectively watching it individually and coming to each other to talk about it. And season 2, the models got a little bit better, story writing got a little bit better, animations between the fight scenes were still not that great, but they got better. Basically a case of they were progressing, and I was in love. It very much felt like a case of this small company was actually progressing, and it felt like the series was able to breathe and starting to gain recognition in the world. And I was so excited, especially because I'm not one in my brain to gatekeep stuff. I love small businesses, as well as I'm less of a, oh, I only support this person because no one knows about them. I'm very much a person of, if they make something good, I will support them and will keep supporting them. And I was excited that is now the small series was getting seen by even more people, because I was in the I wasn't like in the phase of like in the beginning, so there's obviously other fans when I joined in this, when I joined in as well, but I was so excited just seeing the wave coming in. And this is around the time that I also was starting to, as season 2 finished, that I started following in on the company itself and just wanting to learn more about the series. And I followed other YouTubers analyzing the show because I wanted to get every possible aspect of like, oh, if I missed something, then I could go watch it again with that in mind. And RWBY also unlocked a case of I'd go and rewatch shows to just rewatch and have a different perspective on it. That was the first series that's ever done that for me, but now I do that consistently. That's a big part of reason why it's on this list. Touchy subject now. The main creator, the person that created this entire series, passed away in between season 2 and season 3. And, or no, it wasn't even that. It was while season 2 was being worked on, he passed away. And the whole community mourned, including me, and I'm getting shaky. I didn't realize this. I was filming this. The first time I was filming this, I was like trying to keep it together, but now as I'm trying to refilm it again, all the emotions are coming out. And as when he passed away, I was now watching the show to try to be an honor, hoping that the show will continue to progress, the story will continue to progress, that it will just get better and better from here, hoping that it will help his legacy. That makes sense, because this show touched so many people's hearts, including mine. So when the main guy that created the series passes away, it's like a huge blow. It's like if George Lucas died before he passed off the series to Disney. That would be the huge blow on the community of Star Wars, which was just obviously bigger, but it just hurts, because it's clearly beautiful mind creating a beautiful series path leaves us. And then season 3 came along, and of course, like the other times, I bookmarked in my brain, excited, watched the series on YouTube, and it's still, the art got better, the models got better, the art got better, the animation in between cutscenes and in the fight scenes were the cutscenes obviously got like skyrocketed so much better, and the fight scenes were still amazing. So I was excited. It felt like they were coming in and honoring that everything was working out, is the best way I guess to put it. And I loved, as I was watching it, I realized that was my favorite season to date. And watching the company, that season put it on the map. So big companies knew about it now. The world was watching. I was even more excited and hopeful when they got... A lot of people were so upset when they got bought out. I was okay with it because I was there for the show. I wasn't necessarily there for the idea of a small business making something big. I was now there for, I want the story to be good. I want to honor the creator that made it. If it gets bought out and the story can still continue and be good and in his name, in the creator's name of the series, that was my goal. My hope was that the story would be good and we'd be able to finish it. It feels satisfying. Of course, on the business side, that's never how it usually intends when it gets bought out by a big company. They want to be able to constantly make more money off of it. So I'm jumping around on my list, so that's why I'm like looking down. I am getting emotional, but also this is a case of I'm jumping around to make sure I stay on track because I am getting emotional. Messing the story up. So, I don't know if it was a whistleblower in this series or if it was a case of it was available on the internet because the company started on YouTube. But the background came out that I think it was in season 4 that they took the man that passed away, that created the series, that there was fighting in the background of how the story should go. And honestly, looking back on it, clear as day, season 1 even, felt like there was fighting on how the story should go. The scene, like there are multiple scenes that apparently shouldn't have existed, according to some people, and then made it in, and it actually made the story more beautiful, and it's something that was big for me watching the series. Talking about this like everyone knows, I was particularly talking about the Yang versus her mom fight scene in season 2. The mom was, one group thought that she shouldn't even come up until much later in the future, but the main guy that created it was like, no, I want her to be known earlier in, and put in the character, and it was so good. But he had a full-on script on how he wanted his story to go, and they basically like put it on the shelf. That I already had trust issues like a little bit. Like I had multiple stories that I was working on. Actually, I didn't even have any trust issues when it came to this stuff, but I was telling people left and right in excitement about my story, not necessarily thinking like, oh, I want you to follow me, but more so in the sense of, this is my passion project, and now you want to hear about this passion project I have, and I'm excited about it, so now I want to tell you because it's so close to me. But then I hear about that and I'm like, holy crap, what if someone did that to me with my passions and my story? I'd not only roll over in my grave, if the zombie apocalypse came about, I would be one of the zombies popping right up and charging right towards the people that ruined my story. So yeah, it gave me trust issues, definitely, but season 3, I now, story-wise, looked a little bit down on it because it wasn't what he initially wanted. It's still beautiful, but it just hurts. You know? I keep saying a lot because I feel like I need to justify my emotions. Ugh! Okay. I kept watching. I particularly watched season 4 and season 5. Season 4, very low, like, so little fight scenes, which hurt because I felt like that was the reason why people joined. It was what started the series to even be a thing. It's what literally the main creator of the series, Monty, that was literally why he created this series, is because he was so good. Like, he wanted to tell a story through fighting. But I let it go because obviously season 3 was like a huge blow up that it makes sense that there would be a bit of downtime for people to recuperate and then get back on their feet. You know? You know, you know, you know. And then season 5, it was supposed to pick up. And I was hopeful. I wasn't excited as I used to be, but I was hopeful. And it ruined the show for me. Because my whole focus point was to have good fighting scenes and then storytelling through actions. It very much felt like they were trying to like verbally tell a story the whole time, and then when actual action was happening, it was so sloppy and bad. I dropped it because the quality was getting so bad. I dropped after season 5. But I still watched the YouTubers that talked about the series because I still, in a weird way, I still was holding out hope because I've seen people talk so badly about going back to Star Wars. I seen people talk badly about Star Wars Episode 1, and then like people didn't talk bad about season 2 and 3, and it kind of got picked up momentum again, so I was hoping that something similar would happen. Again, most of my life I've been extremely optimistic about stuff. So I dropped the series because I am not a hate watcher, but I still was hoping, hey, maybe if it picks up again, like if someone gets kicked out, animators step up their game, good fight scenes come back in again, I'm back in. But that didn't happen. I kept watching the YouTubers, and the series just was getting so bad that they couldn't even properly give commentary on it anymore. They would just like show a scene and be like, I have nothing else to explain about that. Or like they would have fill in the void because they needed to make videos. Because this is what they did. This is what started their channel and getting people to listen to them. And also it started getting them into groups where it felt like their personalities were souring because they were getting, term on the internet, blackpilled, they were losing hope themselves. That's why they were still making videos, still watching it while they were hate watching. I guess they were maybe hoping there'd still be good stuff in it, and it wasn't. So I dropped them because I couldn't even support the series anymore. And then there's this big YouTuber that made a whole analysis video on RWBY, and I watched it, and it made me realize that even like the beginning stuff that I had, like he forcefully took off my rose-tinted glasses. It was basically like, yeah, even the beginning wasn't that great, but I understand why people got into it because it felt like the holes that were there, you could fill in your own story in it. Like, story writers could still get into this crap. Called me out. I was like, whoa, buddy. Not me writing stories in my free time. And it was great that I was getting called out because it helped me realize that, yeah, I saw potential and I still held on to a hope, and then this, like, the animation story wasn't that great, but it could be better, and we were still excited about it. And he said, like, oh, in the community they say it's, like, around here that it dropped, but I wouldn't even say that. I'd say the story wasn't even that great to begin with, but people were excited, and it had potential, so people watched it for the potential. And frankly, I agree. I did watch it for the potential. That's literally what my whole beginning segment was. And then I dropped the series altogether. I did buy, like, journals, RWBY journals, before I dropped it, but this is also when I was teeter-tottering on it, hoping that maybe it'd still be good, but then afterwards I dropped the YouTubers, I dropped the series, I dropped everything at this point. Then, I put it in between season 4 and 5, and quality drop and I drop on the list. Songs better, sorry. Songs better storytellers. Basically, literally just jot down so it makes sense to me as I say it. But season 4 and so on, the songs were better at writing the story, telling the stories. It is very much felt like a case of people were narrating so much, but then the songs would actually be able to tell the emotions that the characters were feeling in the segment. And oh boy. I realized when I dropped the series is also when the songs couldn't even keep up with. I dropped the YouTubers once the songs couldn't even keep up anymore in my eyes. Because it was just basically a clear-cutting case of the story writing was so bad, even the good story writers trying to fix the holes in it couldn't fix it anymore. And then that's just how I saw it. Years later, like, I think it was actually this year, a little bit earlier this year, the company dies. And a part of, basically, it was a case of they got bought out. They couldn't keep up with the demands that their bosses wanted from them. And the money was just so bad that they became a tax write-off, and they fired all the people. I don't want to say good riddance, because I don't think anyone losing a job is terrible. On the other hand, I'm happy that they can't try to butcher the vision that Monty had anymore. And I put down my thoughts. I have so many thoughts. I am grateful that the series existed. I am devastated it turned out so bad. And the hopeful side of me is very much a case of I would love to somehow buy the story if I had the money and try to remake it again. Find the original script that Monty made and try to recreate it. That, as I was writing this, I obviously had a lot of passion in it, but I didn't plan on getting back into the series again. And then my sister brought up a topic, and it got me thinking about RWBY, so I was like, wait, do you know about RWBY? Sibling was like, no. And I got excited, and I started watching the trailers again. And because I'm so knees deep into nostalgia of this show, I just was unintentionally just lore dumping on my sister, who hasn't even watched the show, but I showed the trailers, and just like me, she was excited for the trailers, and it got me excited, and we watched all the trailers, and now she's like, oh, I need to watch season 1, and I'm like, oh, just so you know, I'm probably hyping it up more than it is. And then I started talking really bad about it unintentionally. She's like, okay. And we watched all the way up to episode 7. And my sister's just like, yeah, it's... Oh. Sorry about that. This is a beautiful angle. Absolutely gorgeous. Can't you tell? It just brings out my complexion. Sorry. Sorry. But currently watching the series with her again, and I'm going to stop at the end of season 3. That's what I told her. And I'm basically telling her, like, yeah, it's got to be heartbreaking, but this is where the series stays good, basically. And it's giving me a whole nostalgia trip just watching it. Holy crap, I feel like I'm experiencing my teen years again almost, which, like, on one hand is terrifying, on the other hand it's beautiful. And so far she's like, the only good stuff is when it gets to the fighting section, and I'm like, I know, and I want to tell you after season 2 of the whole background scenes about it, of like how the story works and how they like organize it and everything, and it's very hard to just keep it to myself, and of all the story plots and of the background stuff and whatnot. But as I'm watching it, it's helping me remind me why I loved the series to begin with, even in its crappy stuff. Even in this stuff of just, holy crap, this is so dated, that joke is dated, that joke is dated, that joke even then I was not happy with, but she just immediately spots out, like, and she's on it, and she's very much a case of, she doesn't allow people to talk crap about, she doesn't let things, not let things slide. She calls out something when something happens. So she's just like, yeah, that was crappy, that was crappy, that was crappy. And I'm like, yep. But she's also like, the fighting's so good, and you love it so much, I still want to watch this. So clearly, even 10 years later, it still holds up somewhat. And I accidentally told her about how John was basically a self-insert for the guys that messed up the series. So now she's just like, frick you, whenever John comes up, and I'm like, okay, whoa. He's not all that bad. Just because the creators are bad doesn't mean he's bad, okay? But, I am Also, I almost forgot to tell you this. I didn't write it down. The main villainess. Sorry about my stomach. I was so mad about how badly they did her that I created a whole character in one of my personal series out of spite. She has the same aesthetic, but I actually created a good, like, in my eyes, she's a good character. But I actually created a character, like a whole, I got the backstory. I got the reasons why she does stuff. I even brought religion into it because I was so mad that I was like, she's like this, she does this, and she does this for this reason, and she does this, and yada yada. And so also in a sense, I'm happy that I watched the show because it's helped me create characters out of spite that I think are good and I want to share with the world. So I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for listening to my rant. And bye.